On Life, Death, and Beyond, we welcome Bo Derks. Bo Derks was born in the Netherlands. She was raised in a family with parents that struggled with addiction. During her childhood, a life exposed her to chaos, loss, and death. This experience started Bo on her search for truth at age 20, where she found meditation and inner child work, and it became an integral part of her life. Her awakening started in 2011. She was working as a physio-therapist and ended up in a burnout. Her work stopped resonating with her, and in 2012, she started her own practice in somatic bodywork. In 2015, her biggest spiritual initiation took place as a Kundalini awakening, and this awakening burned away nearly all forms in her life. She had to let go of her practice, lost her house, relationship, and connection to her family. The last 10 years, Shakti led her into deep spiritual work with herself, during which she experienced multiple dark nights of the soul and death rebirth experiences. 2 years ago, she felt called to start sharing her experience and knowledge on YouTube. Here she shares about the journey of awakening, and she uses her psychic ability to talk about what's happening energetically in the collective. You can find Bo's YouTube channel at Bo Derks. Welcome, Bo. Thank you for taking the time out to join me today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. And before we start talking about our main topic, the Kundalini and Shakti experiences, can you share a little about your background and where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from the Netherlands, and I grew up in a family where there was a lot of addiction. At least from my mother's side, there was a lot of alcoholism and medication addiction. And my father was the enabler. He was the codependent who helps basically kept my mother in that state of destruction. So he was also addicted, but it's more of a behavioral addiction. He was also a workaholic, so he wasn't so much into substances, but he was definitely also fleeing away from his own inner life by taking care of my mother. Yeah. So there was a lot of chaos in my childhood. My mother was chronically depressed, tried to commit suicide 2 times. And there was a lot of fighting and scolding, and there was a lot of unsafety in our house. So I grew up basically always needing to read the rooms, feel, okay, how is my mother doing, or how is the energy? So I knew how to adapt to not get sucked into some kind of fight or scolding or punishment or something like that. So as a very young child, I already learned to use my empathic skills and my psychic ability to screen everyone, to feel if I'm safe, if moving towards almost how do you say that, merging with the other person, not having an own identity. So I couldn't be so nothing would she wouldn't blame me for certain things. So I learned to become the other one instead of creating my own identity as a young child. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do have some of that experience in my background as well. My mom got involved with somebody who was the addict. So it's kind of like a reverse, and yeah, so I was kind of doing the same thing, trying to navigate all that, staying away, staying in my room, avoidance, and just I became really in tune to certain things because of that. It's survival, basically. So yeah. So with the conversation, like I said, it's kind of we're going to go into Kundalini and the Shakti. Now, can you share what the Kundalini and Shakti is in your understanding? And like, because there are some differences between them too. Some people call it like maybe the same thing, but from my understanding, they're different. One is the process, the Kundalini, and then energy is the Shakti. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I can and agree with that. For me, Shakti is the mother energy, is the creation energy. It's what gives everything life. And Shakti is ultimately the energy that is initiating a Kundalini awakening. And that's, from my understanding, it can go both ways. That is life force, sexual energy, um, being pushed from bottom, so your sacral to your upper chakras. But there are also people who experience the reversed Kundalini awakening, who experience that the energy goes from their upper chakras to their root chakra, but less people experience the reversed although I must say, since we are going through such a big transformation as a human collective, we see a lot of old souls descending onto this planet, and they already have experienced a lot of spiritual growth in previous lives. So I've been very lucky to meet quite some souls who already have such awakened perspective, even as a young child, and they are really going the opposite direction. So they really come here, bring new states of consciousness to this planet. So the last three chakras are for them the last, the most difficult ones to master, to really be in the lower frequencies that planet Earth lives in.
Mm, yeah, and when I had my Kundalini, I didn't know what was going on. It's mine from my own experience. It was from the base all the way up. So it was really interesting, and I understand that because everybody's journey is different, and what they're coming in to obtain or achieve, for their evolution, it is going to be different. I mean, I even talked to some people that had sporadic experiences, not a full-on Kundalini. So it happened little bits and pieces over their journey. So it does seem to go in different directions, like from crown down and then from the base up. And I was like, that's really interesting. Because I was teaching Reiki for a while, and some people were saying, they were sharing their experiences with Kundalini.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I always say, because I really see so many different ways of a Kundalini awakening, I always say God does this any way it wants, you know. It can be a sporadic, soft awakening, that Kundalini is not so much aggressive in at once, but there are also people who have a very aggressive, explosive Kundalini awakening. There are so many different ways people get to meet um, God, get to
Mhm.
meet their awakening.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, Now, how did you know it was Shakti versus the process? Was there like a defining moment? Because I know for me, it was almost like it was just the whole awakening process. And then after that is when I started recognizing Shakti energy. So it wasn't like in the same process that I was aware of it, even though it probably was. But for me, afterwards, I started hearing, because my intuitive abilities were more open. I started hearing Shakti, and then my body started going into more experiences.
Yeah, I wasn't aware at all. And my Kundalini awakening happened 10 years ago. Back then, I was working I had a practice in coaching. I was doing energetic readings for people. And before that, I was a physiotherapist, and I started when I was a physiotherapist. I already started to awaken to my clairvoyant and psychic abilities. So people would come to me with neck problems, and I couldn't treat their neck as basically a physical thing anymore. I could feel, oh, you're holding grief, and my boss didn't like the way I was engaging with people anymore. He found it too. It wasn't physiotherapy. It wasn't physiotherapy, and it was because I was not having any feeling anymore with my work. So at one point, I said goodbye to my work as a physiotherapist, and I started my own practice in. A more holistic approach and using my clairvoyance and psychic abilities to really check in, tune in with people. Okay, where do your problems really come from? What can I sense or feel with that? So I was 3 years on my way with my practice, and I was 29 when my Kundalini awakening started, and I was already 5 years in a spiritual awakening, so to say. So it wasn't that I was completely oblivious to the spiritual world. I started meditating already since 21 years old, and started reading esoteric books already from that age. So I was very much interested into into Buddhism, into Christianity, into everything that really um pointed me more towards I was in search for stability because I've experienced so much chaos as a child that I went on a search for truth, because life as it was not it. I was very depressed at one point in my life. So I already started searching for quite some years, and meditation became way more frequent. I had a very easy access to source when I started meditating. I found that out, that when I started meditating, I almost immediately came into this presence moments, into this presence. And I remember when it happened. It was the evening before Christmas. I sat in a room with a client, and it was horrific. I sensed my energy really, like I was with my fingers into a lightning sock, There was so much energy pouring through me. And the man I had for a session, he was telling his story, and I couldn't listen to him anymore because there was just so much going on inside of me. And at one point I needed to say, okay, I'm going to something. I said to him, I'm feeling not well. I think we should end this session, and I will see you next time. And as he went out, it became intense, very intense. And I couldn't, uh, I lost at one point all sense of time. I didn't know how long, how much time had passed, but I was shivering. My whole body was starting to shake, and all I could do was laying in this fetal position on the ground. And I don't know how long I've laid there. It was a severe anxiety came through me, like a death fear to die. I was so scared to die. um I really felt I was losing my mind. I was thinking, okay, this is going to get insane. This is the end of just lock me up in a psych ward, because it was really traumatic for me to and it happened also because I couldn't get out of this state that I was in. And the only thing I could manage to do was pick up my phone and call a friend. And she came by and she saw, yeah, she was in shock in what she saw, and she said, "You cannot take care of your," and I couldn't take care of myself. I was she agreed to sleep over for 2 3 nights with me, and the anxiety worsened, and I got even a very dark, depressing thoughts, like really suicidal ideation. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel anymore, and that was the time where she decided to connect with my doctor, and they decided, okay, maybe it's best for you to just be sectioned for a while. And I was sectioned for, I think, around 6 to 8 weeks. I was there, and it was severely traumatic because I knew that I was going through an awakening of some sorts, because my inner wisdom felt this is a rebirth. But at the same time, I couldn't take care of myself, and so yeah, our medical world doesn't know anything about the Kundalini awakening. So I got stuffed with medication to really make me feel more calm, and it was horrible, but it was the only way to really come a bit into a balance afterwards. When I got out of there, I dropped the medication immediately, but in that time I couldn't take care of myself anymore. I was a piece of mirror that just shattered into multiple pieces. It was a very, very traumatic experience for me.
Yeah, they definitely can be, especially when it's a full Kundalini. But you said you didn't know anything beforehand, like it just kind of came over you. You didn't have any like signs when you look back at it. Did you have any like intuitive?
Yeah. Uh, I think it was half a year. Yeah, about 7 8 months before this happened, I got a very clear message that I was going to lose everything. And back then I was in a relationship, and I bought my own house, and I checked the boxes of what society needs me to be. And I told my partner I that I felt that this message was truth. I felt it in everything, and he was like, "No, it's just your anxiety. It will not come that far." But I felt it so deeply. So a few months before my Kundalini awakening, I started already cutting down my clients because I really felt I needed more space for my spiritual, uh, yeah, how do you say that? Alchemizing, because there was a lot of transmutation already happening. But it always had to happen the way it happened. It wasn't enough to keep everything stable. So and indeed, I lost everything. I had to let go of my house, my relationship vanished. My relationship with my parents abruptly collapsed. Everything, literally everything fell away from me. And honestly, I didn't really care, because I was so in such a um, massive state of expansiveness that I was even willing to just be living on the streets. It's like, okay, if I have to live on the streets, then that's also fine. The only thing I can do is bow to this energy, because it's so strong, and I it's just having whole control over my life. I cannot power my way through this like I did most of my life.
Hmm. Yeah, some of that sounds very familiar. I pretty much had everything, the car, the house, the husband, the kid, the going to college, getting a degree, and then kind of end up going through the dark night of the soul. Started awakening up within that. And like, I found it to be empty. Like everything that I got was empty. And I was like, well, what is the purpose of this? And it started me seeking. And so then I went in through the dark night of the soul, and it was like this light was going out. And it was like, I became like dimensional, and it was really interesting. And then I ended up having a near death experience because I demanded to know from the creator what this was all about. Because, like, if this is what life is, we're doing everything we're supposed to do. And, it means nothing. It's empty. There's nothing. It's like an illusion, right? And that I'm living in. And I'm like, what is this all about? And I demanded to know. And I ended up having a near death experience. Coming back from that, I was one of the teachers that I was led onto a teacher path. So I was led into learning meditation because it was like I lived under a rock. I was in this world of illusion, and I didn't know anything and understand anything. And from there, it kind of just evolved. I started meditating, was meditating for probably about 3 years before my Kundalini. And this was back in 2010. So about 2013, 14, it finally happened, the Kundalini. And so meditation led to yoga and then a lot of spiritual experiences. And then the Kundalini started. And from there, I had a base up awakening. Like my whole body just started rocking uncontrollably. At the time, I was with another person. It was a soulmate that came in, and it was time for us to separate. And I kind of knew that. And part of that, I feel, was triggering that as well, because when you're with your soulmate, that sexual energy is very intense, and any disruption with it, so that kind of helped set it off. And I just started rocking and rocking, and I couldn't do it. And eventually I felt this energy just going up to the crown. And I would say it was like 3 in the morning when it started, and I was getting up to go get ready for work, go home. And as I was doing that, like I got in the shower and I was like, I felt like I was going to pass out. So I was like, I can't go to work today. And thank God it was a Friday. I didn't have to work for the weekend. So I had time to process. At the time, I was a counselor, right? So I kind of had some counseling modalities and things to work with so I could work myself through it. So I was like, okay, I'll be all right. I'll just use my skills that I've attained, you
Too,
know.
by the way. Yeah. I had I had this mala, so
Uh-huh.
I felt as like, okay, I need to pray to do something. So I started praying to God, but it was God, it's like, yeah, you can pray all you want, dear, but this is going to happen. Did you also had some messages before this happened that you felt, oh, this is going to happen to me, or it was coming
Mm,
all out of the blue for
it
you?
was all out of the blue because I really didn't know anything. And it wasn't until after that I researched it, because as it was going to the top, like my body was so uncontrollable in a rocking that I was like, okay, I need to go to the hospital, and just to be safe, they can run tests or whatever. So I called 911. They came and took me to the hospital. And then at the hospital, continuing to rock, and they're doing all these tests. They couldn't find anything because everything's energetic, right? There was nothing physically wrong. My heart rate was fine. My blood pressure was fine. I got up after a few hours, went to the bathroom, and at that point, it was up to here. Blood started coming out of my nose, and I was like releasing stuff, right? Because the energy was so powerful enough, it triggered something, blood started just spurting out everywhere. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? They were going to do a CAT scan, but somebody came up for some whatever reason, and I was listening, and I feel like this is when I started hearing, don't tell them anything because they're going to medicate you. My guide started speaking. And so I was like, okay, but I heard this other person come up and say, no, you're not running a CAT scan. So whether my guides told them, you know, them thinking whatever it was, not to do that test, but to do, they did every other test there was. Um, but yeah, from there I went home and um, I just kept getting these messages, what to do to create like this space around me, and make it so I had out like my little Buddha statue, and then I had like my altar and my sacred space. And so I sat in my sacred space during the process. And then it got to a point, it's like the evening of the next day, it's still going on, and I seen this image. It was like psychedelic snake, and I was like, what is this snake? Right. Because I didn't really know anything that was going on, and it's all, I had to research everything afterwards because I didn't have a guru. I didn't have anybody, my family,
Yeah.
an addict and, somebody who fed into that. And, but yeah.
Oh, that's
And,
beautiful that you mentioned that because I had, and I still do, I have a lot of dreams about snakes. And every time when those dreams come really intense, I know Shakti is becoming more strong. So they are little pointers to me when there are snakes in my dream and they start biting me. I know, okay, there is another push coming, because the
mm,
beginning of this year I had a second really big push. And it's beautiful how you mentioned that, when you are with a partner that is really your soulmate. And back then I was not beginning of this year, but now it's 2.5, 3 years ago, I was with a soulmate that really catalyzed me into, whoa, so much undoing. And this parting really triggered a second big push, a second very big awakening inside of me.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
experience.
it's definitely a catalyst. And I found out, after researching, the symbol, and how uh, the soulmate helps trigger that. And
Yeah.
so it was all starting to come together and make sense to me, and then while I was in my sacred space, I started having like past lives come up, and things to work on, things to heal, things to see. And so it all started making sense of why my life was the way it was. And I've had a lot of channel knowledge came in. So I was trying to write things down, as it was coming in. I seen Jesus, Buddha, a lot of the gurus started coming in and giving me information. And yeah, pretty much evolved from there. And it took me probably a good 6 months to really ground myself because I was really open at that point. So I was using my counseling skills to navigate it, but I didn't want to go get help. And I know sometimes we do have to um, get into the medical field and let them do their thing to help us. But I was very resistant to, I was like, nope, because I worked in the medical
If,
field.
if if you can do it yourself, if you're in that position, that is very beautiful, because I think in the end that's the best way to recover the fastest. With me, I had to walk a different path. Unfortunately, I was absorbed in the psychiatric world until afterwards I needed to regain my strength and find my own fundaments again. But okay, that has been my experience. I think it's also because of the ancestral trauma,
Mm,
especially my mother's family lineage. They are all pretty much very psychic, but they also have, some of them have experience with being sectioned. So there is some. I had to do some clearing in there. So in the end, I think it was for me the best way to experience a Kundalini awakening, and at the same time feel the pain of how our society reacts to crisis, because that traumatized, especially the lineage of my mother, very, very badly.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize they're going through the Kundalini, and because medical professionals don't practice that. They don't teach that, and they don't help people through that because they don't know. They're not taught that. I know I wasn't when I went to school for counseling. We're not told, oh, that's a Kundalini awakening, but I think a lot of people are going through, they don't realize it. And so they get mistreated, misdiagnosed. And, I think it kind of will, I don't know. I didn't have the experience, but maybe you can add some knowledge to that. Did it keep you from your journey, or did you have an inner knowing, that you still needed to do the work and what it actually was, even with the medications? Because I
Yeah,
think
I
they're
definitely, I definitely had an inner knowing what was happening to me. I did have the clarity not to communicate it with the the people that I was surrounded with, because that would have worked completely the other way. But I really feel very deeply that I needed to feel how our collective is functioning nowadays. Because now I'm also guiding people who are going through difficult awakenings, and I think if I wouldn't have experienced how poor our society is, if it comes to having a proper guidance, if it comes to spiritual knowledge, that has really forgotten, and that is so sad. It's only held by a few people, and because of that, I really feel the responsibility to be one of those people who hold this space for others, who can add some guidance during their process.
beautiful. Yeah, we definitely need all the support, to help others through it because yeah, they may not understand it, kind of like my own journey. Um, but yeah, having the skills is helpful. And I think that's kind of what helped save me to get through it, being able to use those. Um, but so how long did it take you about to recover?
The first one was a very long time. It was so big that I think only after 7, 8 months I started to feel the ground, as you already said, a little bit underneath me. But that was about it. I had no energy. I was still integrating so much. There were so many downloads coming in. Also, my psychic abilities became even more expanded. My sensitivity increased and still is increasing beyond anything I've ever experienced. So it really took me about 1.5, 2 years to really integrate this whole process of being pushed outside of the social construct, because before I was checking all the boxes, and all of a sudden I was really living as an outcast, not connected with anything anymore. As you said, I didn't feel like what the point of it was. So empty how people for me, and how I lived for so many years. So it was a deep psychological, emotional, and physical renewal for me that really took me some, yeah, I think 1.5, 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the recovery and then integrating everything does take a while. It's like a journey. And I know for me, like I said, past lives were coming up, self-healing, doing the energy work. It's kind of like a clearing out and like an upgrade to our systems. I kind of look at it as like all our old programmings are going away, and when we get the downloads and the information, and we're healing and doing the work, because that's part of the Kundalini, is to do the inner work, the soul work, and integrate everything. It's almost like you're a different person. I know I am totally a different person than I was before. I'm not that person anymore, even though I hold still the same name, which I'm actually looking for a different name to use, that aligns more with where I'm at now, so I can change it. But I'm a totally different person than I used to be. And so it's really interesting how it's almost like an upgrade, like it sheds everything. And the other thing I wanted to kind of point out too is like during the whole experience, one of the things that came to me was like this is how Buddha awakened. He went to go sit on the tree and he had all these things coming at him that he was going through Kundalini awakening. And that's basically.
Jesus Christ also went through a Kundalini awakening, and I have a
Mhm.
lot with Jesus because you were talking about it, all these um, enlightened beings started connecting to, and for me it was exactly the same. I started connecting so deeply with Jesus. I started to connecting to Ananda Mahima very deeply. Yeah, and I started understanding Jesus's paths so profoundly, as if it was my own. He forelives what we all, not all, but what some souls are going through right now. The big awakening, and Buddha, of course, also. So they were already some indicators of. I don't believe in those times there were really such a big amount of people who were waking up, but yeah, we have some pretty beautiful examples in how we can experience a Kundalini awakening.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so and I think maybe back then there was more guidance, and we've kind of lost connection with that, especially in the United States, and with the religions, because they don't nobody teaches it anywhere, and it's more in like the Buddhist practices where if they say anything, it's more in there where they would be open to it. And then gurus from India, they know and they talk about it and they teach it, whereas here they don't. So people don't understand it so much.
True.
Yeah. And then with the Kundalini, because I know we kind of wanted to talk about that, as far as if people who haven't had the experience yet, but want to have the experience. Um, I would say for me, I don't know that it would be unless you're ready and you understand it and know it and ready to process and let go of everything because you will shed everything as you know it, like your relationships, your house, your car, like everything just falls away, like you said. And that's what happened to me. And you become a whole different person. So unless you're ready for a all overhaul of who you are, I don't know that I don't recommend going chasing it, and just let it to unfold naturally. Like, what do you say about that?
I feel exactly the same about it. Shakti finds you. I don't feel it's wise to find to find Shakti because as you already described, this is such a big dying. It's also beautiful by the way that you, because I have thought about it too. I'm not Bo anymore, you know. It's do I want to have a different name? It is going around in my head also, and I know there are on the internet quite some people who go through gurus to wanting to be initiated into a Kundalini awakening, and ultimately, what is going to happen will happen. So I don't think that the way we wake up is a default,
Mhm.
but I think it's very important to really understand what this process is about, because this is not child's play. This is a complete undoing of your ego completely. Because ever since, I don't know if you can recognize it, ever since I had my Kundalini awakening, my life is not mine anymore.
Yeah. And that's interesting you just said that because the other day, this my spirit guides and in my connection, every now and then I'll get these things to contemplate. And one of them was actually that it says, have you ever thought that your life is not your own? And that was really interesting. And so it gives me things to contemplate because it at this moment in my life, like it's almost like um I'm I wouldn't say it's a school, right? But it's like I'm guided and I'm given things to contemplate and from higher consciousness, God, source, whatever you want to call it, your spirit guides, things come in and it's an ongoing process. It's not just your Kundalini and you're done and over. It's not just, oh, my Kundalini and that's it. There's
Yeah,
work
you
to be
said it's not
done.
school. I think for me, God sent me back to school, you know. I haven't gone into societal functioning ever since, you know. I have been in hermit mode now for 1.5 years, not because of my choosing, because I'm a quite social person, but also I had a vision about that. It came to my dreams, and where in which my guide said, "You are going back exactly what you're saying. You're going back to school. You're going into a retreat, and you're going to undo everything from your family lineage to your collective identifications." And I woke up, and my ego was still like, "Oh, yeah." it,
Yeah.
it, it it's not that bad. It's not so, but it's not bad in a way that my ego just doesn't have any say in this anymore. I just need to bow, and if I don't, my life becomes severely hard. My suffering becomes immensely if I don't accept what source is guiding me towards. And at the moment,
Mhm.
I'm going through big lessons and undoings still to really become sovereign and completely detached from any form of identification or survival functioning.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same place. I'd rather stay in my room and my own space and just live the rest of my life, right? But unfortunately, in the situation where, you have to still do the work thing. So I do go part-time working, and other than that, I just spend time to myself. And it's for me, it's there's no attachment to things. Like I don't feel like how I felt before. There's no joy to certain lively things, like a car or going out to drink or going to party or go to a concert or whatever. Like I don't find enjoyment in any of that anymore. And it's like very displaced in a place where everybody finds enjoyment in doing those
Yeah,
things.
so recognizable. Did you first try? Because I did. After my awakening, I tried to go with people who weren't friends anymore because they were blown away from my circle, but they came sometimes in my aura. Do you want to go out to dinner? And I was like, oh, maybe I should try. And I just sat there and I just saw them just enjoying the food and having conversations about chit chat and the day to day things. And I was so misplaced. Exactly what you're saying. I didn't get joy out of sitting there in those bright lights with that loud music. And no, it was, I tried to because my ego always was and sometimes still is a pretty strong character. I really tried to get in there, like
Mm,
just try, but it doesn't. I don't get any joy out of any of it anymore. My biggest joy comes from meditation, just being and walking in nature, because nature really reflects source back to
mhm,
me, reflects Shakti back to me. So everything that reflects Shakti back to me gives me the greatest joy.
mhm. Exactly. I love being in nature. So anytime I'm either by the water in the parks, and I get a lot of information when I'm there. And yeah, I kind of going back to like trying to go back out into the world as we used to before the whole awakening. I kind of refer it to so people can understand it's like being sober around a bunch of drunks because they're enjoying the world, they're dancing, having fun, and you're just sitting there observing it. And there's
Beautiful.
you just don't.
It's such a It is spot on. It's exactly how I experience it also. I'm really looking around me like, are you on drugs, or what is it that you're on?
Yeah, yeah, that's the
But
best
we're laughing about
scenario.
it, but yeah, we're laughing about it, but basically, the collective, the huge chunk of people are moving from addiction to addiction, whether it's food or it's money or if it's ambition or it's sex or love or whatever. People are just living from high to high to high,
Mhm,
and that high, it didn't do anything for me anymore, and it didn't do anything for you anymore. So it is watching a bunch of addicts just keep how do you say it, numbing themselves over and over and over again.
mhm, yeah. What do you find is the best way that you are able to maneuver through that? Because like I struggle, and I'm going to admit it, I struggle because I don't have that interest anymore, and it's like, because sometimes it can be you're just by yourself, but I enjoy being by myself because I don't have it's kind of an interesting space that I'm in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very. um I must say I struggle with that too. I'm very much happy on my own and being in silence. But I must say, and I don't have the answer to that quite yet, like we're also social beings in some kind
Mhm,
of way, in what degree can I let people into my world without losing uh, authentic my authenticity, without losing presence. And um, at the moment, I am only in contact with a few people, but they are at other sides of the world that I really feel that I can be completely authentically myself.
mhm,
But in my environment, in my day-to-day life, I haven't experienced it. So I'm really keeping to myself a lot because I don't want to lose connection with Shakti. That's basically, I don't want to drain myself. Um, in order to be able to have some sort of it's not even connection, it's just, yeah, what is it,
yeah,
a fake
yeah,
belonging. I've tried that in the beginning after my awakening for a while, like trying to get along with certain people that were in a completely different state of consciousness, but that didn't work out well for me. It really drained me. It it didn't work, and also not for them because it became severely uncomfortable for them because we're talking now around an hour, but usually I'm a pretty silent person, and when I meet people, there's just a lot of silence involved, and there are not a lot of people who can cope with just being in each other's space and enjoying presence. Yeah,
mhm, yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. And I guess it's just yeah, I don't know if it's like missing it, but it's almost like, it'd be nice to have somebody that you can talk to, that's had the same experience, and where you're at, and not try to fit in to another place. Because even like when I go out to that part-time job, they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, you wouldn't understand. They're like, oh, you don't drink? No, I don't drink. They're asking me, do you want to go out to dinner? Do you want, and I'm like, no. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything. It's just I don't have that interest. So it's kind of
no, me
like
neither.
it's
Just all burned away, isn't it? It just
mhm,
also going on vacation or things like that, but people really used to get really excited about, and I'm like, no, just. Just my
Yeah.
day-to-day rituals. And what have you done today? I meditated, I walked in the forest, I read a book, and most people cannot understand that at all. No, and
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to not being understood. But as you said, it would be nice to sometimes, if there would be a physical connection in my direct environment with people who are also going to an awakening. Sometimes I really miss that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's nice to have somebody to talk to about certain things. So
yeah.
definitely agree. Yeah, yeah. And then just briefly, because I know we're kind of coming down, kind of want to be mindful of the time. Did you have like your abilities more expanded and like sensitivities? Because I have like a lot more things that I've always been kind of open, knew that people were there, could sense things, but they're definitely more expanded now. And do you use any of your abilities to help people in sessions or do anything like that?
Yeah, my abilities have they really expanded big time. Um, I my connection to no, I say that wrongly. It's not my connection to I have little and little identification with this form. So I'm more everywhere, so to say. So I feel the universe and everything that's going on in the universe very deeply. And that's what I also do in my channel. I do collective energy readings for the human collective. So what's going on in an energetic way for collectively. But also when I meet people in a one-on-one, I can really tune in with where they are at in their spiritual path. What give people guidance, like where their blockages are at the moment, so what they can do to get more advanced in their awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, my sensitivity is out of the chart. It's at one point I really started doubting if I would maybe be autistic, because my sensitivity to light, to sounds, to energies, to food, to basically everything has enhanced, like those stereo, like tuned up, so big. It's I still need to sometimes. I feel I'm still not there in being balanced with all the abilities that I gained over the years. I'm still in this integration mode to learn to, you get all these new tools and like to start like, okay, how do I move this new me into this big world? It's still a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said that because that's been on my mind lately that maybe, and I've been looking back over my life and I'm like, maybe I am on the spectrum. What they call the spectrum because I
Yeah.
had a lot of sensitivity since childhood, and texture and now being expanded, it's like twice that, and I'm like, and I don't like being out in public, doing the things. I don't even like going to the grocery store anymore.
Isn't that interesting? Because before that you were me too. I was more into to interacting, talking with people, and I believe in retrospect it was a mask to survive, to be able to tick the box, go to school, work. But when I had my awakening, it's that mask started to drop big time, and still now I'm still peeling back and peeling back and peeling back, and I'm really thinking that, not thinking, I really feel that underneath my how do you say, underneath everything there was always this autistic child that was rather on her own, felt everything so deeply, didn't want to go to busy events and parties and birthdays. And as a child, I was already, my mother used to say, you shouldn't say that, Bo. This is not polite to just speak truth, you know. Like, didn't you say that we would be at a vacation and family would also be there in at that camping, and I would say in front of my aunt to my mother, didn't you say that you didn't want to meet a lot of didn't want a lot of contact with them, you know, when we are on vacation? I still sometimes don't understand when I'm just speaking my truth and a lot of people look at me like, don't you get social cues? You shouldn't say those things. Like, for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
just basically I'm just being Bo. I'm just being open, and it can be very um, it can annoy people because it's confronting or something when I just. And I learned to because I'm going through some big healing lately with my throat. I learned to swallow a lot, you know, just to keep. At one point, I saw what my voice was doing to my surroundings, and I started shrinking myself and the way I was interacting with people, and that's what is coming online slowly back again. But it's some huge purging that I'm doing on that, because it's also a lot of trauma on the witch wounds, you know. We have been persecuted lifetimes, you know, not being able just to speak our truth, being able to just be that expansiveness that we are. It has always been shamed or damaged or ridiculed or controlled,
Yeah.
because people fear it. They fear being seen so deeply. They fear that people can that I can see in somebody's soul, and it's not socially accepted if you can see in people's soul. You need to see what they want you to see. You know, they put on the charade, a mask,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you need to believe in, and that's what you need to see. Not the real person that is really in behind that. And I never understood that.
Yeah, yeah. And I like as a child, I seen that whenever my mother would take me to church, and it's like they're teaching, religion and belief and gospel and how you should be, and yet they don't do that. It's almost like, do as I say, not as I do, right? But yeah, and when you were saying about the energy in the throat, one of the things that they showed me is when I don't speak my truth, there's an energy that, and it's funny you said you swallow, because there is an energy that you're swallowing, and that brings that into your body, in your space. Do you know what I mean? The truth, and you live from that illusion when you lie. So speaking truth is important, even if it's going to not intentionally hurt somebody, but you have to speak your truth, and people will get offended of it, but we're not responsible for another person. We're only responsible for our own truth.
True, but you first need to learn. I speak for myself. I first really needed to learn self-love, because I
Mm-hmm.
come from a very my parents were very codependent, and it's all fear, you know, fear of being left alone, fear of being on your own, you know, that addictive behavior has been passed on into me also. So from a young child, I started living very codependently, pleasing people, you know, not stepping on one's foot or rocking the boat. And I really needed to learn to come back to really truly loving myself. And loving myself is not going to some sauna or to a beautician. No, it's really deep honoring of my source, of my essence. And that has took me quite some years before I could really own up to who I was, and from there I could start speaking truth. Because before I wasn't so much strong in my self-love. I was really still very depending on, oh, what do others think of me, or do others think I'm nice, or
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't strong enough to really embrace my own, carry my own.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then it's like, we have to, and so I went through like a lot of kind of doing the same thing, accepting, what others want us to do and be and how we're supposed to live our lives. Accepting that, seeing the energy that I was taking on in the throat, taking it in, but having to heal all that, as going through the process. Definitely. Is there anything else that you feel like you wanted to share that maybe we didn't and would be important for this topic?
Yeah, maybe we can could quickly touch the what I've experienced in Kundalini world, so to say. When I, of course, I also watch some videos on social media, people talking about their Kundalini awakening, and there seems to be this. Um, and I believe it's also because some people, how do you say that? View this kind of experience that after your Kundalini awakening, there is no further purging anymore. There is no further expansion needed anymore because Shakti already blew open all your chakras and that's it. And now we're basically living like Buddhas here on earth. And in my experience, that is not the case at all. My experiences in going through a Kundalini awakening is really waking up radically to your source nature. But that doesn't mean that any future purgings or developments in a spiritual way are done. It's not an ending, a Kundalini awakening, at least not for me. I don't
Hmm.
know what your experience in that is.
No, it's ongoing. I am still seeing things that, I need to work on, heal. And I think part of me still being out in the world, having to integrate or interact with people that I am is a practice. And I look at a practice like the other day because I struggle with going to work and being around people. I'd rather be in nature or just in my own space. What I received was to look at going to work as my sadhana, right? And although we call it, in society a job, you get paid for it, use it as your sadhana, and work on it, you know, practice being in the world, but not of it. And utilize that
Beautiful.
as, because in sadhana, you stay in the moment, just stay in your present, your place, and helping, giving, and look at it from that perspective, not the working a job perspective. So they're always giving me stuff to change my perspective around certain situations I'm still working on in certain situations. But yeah, and I do still get awakenings, a lot of downloads, information channeling. So it's an ongoing process for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful how you you say that so loving. They're still giving they give me themes and topics to work on. They will always find new themes and topics to work on. No, I feel like the universe is also an infinite expansion, you know. The universe is just expanding and expanding, expand, and we are a microcosmos of the macrocosmos. So we are also infinite expansion, and that's how I see it. It's beautiful how you described it. It's just an ongoing process of expansion, and every time there's just a new team popping up that's needs to be worked at or needs to be dealt with or letting go of. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful.
it's an
Yeah.
ongoing sadhana, as you said. It's integrating with society as it is right now is a process on its own that takes quite some time. But also being in service of this world
Mm-hmm.
is for me a topic that is really hot at the moment to really not to stop, because I have lived for years, of course, for my own, for myself. I need money, I need a job, I need a relationship, I need. And this has just completely rotated 180 degrees, and that I still need to integrate, that it's not me anymore, that I'm really living presence, that I'm bowing to Shakti, and that I'm answering her instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you
And
so much
you're welcome.
for this
Um,
talk.
where would people be able to find you? Do you have a website and your links?
No, I only have my YouTube
Okay.
website, where I post videos about the Kundalini awakening process, but also um, normal awakenings. Just not just a dark night of the soul. Um, I post content about what is going on collectively at the moment, because we're going through some very turbulent times if it comes to our ascension, and some specific transmissions for people who are really consider themselves to be multidimensional beings, souls who are very highly sensitive and um, aren't they are really misfits of society, so to say. They cannot really feel their place into society. I make some content for them too.
Beautiful. Thank you for doing that. So thank you so much for being on our show in the conversation, Bo. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too. It was a pleasure meeting you, Laura.
You as well.
Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me. We're not the one and only. It's going to happen to everybody. Yeah, baby. Say it isn't so, baby. It's the truth, don't you know, baby? We're all consciousness, living out our reason in a world of endless stories. Said from the beginning, we race to the finish as we face the harsh reality. We don't remember